All right, so for our Wood 3 guys, we're going to be starting on this lamp table project here today. And the packet that we have is right here. It's listed as lamp table. You're going to put your name on it, your period, and the species of wood that you're using for your wood top. This particular individual has chosen cherry. For our tabletop, if we open this up, it lists in here as our tabletop being a finished dimension of 16 inches by 16 inches. If we want to end at 16 by 16, you think we want to start a little bit bigger than that? Absolutely. How much bigger would you start? How much would you add to that 16 inches? About a ½ inch roughly? Good choice. So, I would say between 1/4 and 1/2. Since we're learning still, I would go with a ½ inch. If we were a little bit more proficient, I'd say a 16th is probably fine. That's in both directions. So that means that the two pieces of wood that I choose need to add up to more than 16. Ideal situation would be about 8½ and 8½. That'd get us to about 17 inches. We're going to have to joint one side. We're going to have to rip another side. We're going to have to joint one side, rip another side. So we're going to lose a little bit. Let's add up and see what we have here. Oh, 10 3/8, 7. That gives me a total of 17 3/8. Is that over 16? Yeah. Sure. Is that a lot over 16? Kinda. But by the time we get it down a little bit, you're probably going to find that we're only about 3/4 of an inch too big. Now, we do want to cut these down to what length? If I want to end at 16, what do you think a good rough length to cut it to would be? 16½. So we'll start with this piece of cherry over here. Tap it on the floor to get some of the dust off. And when we take a look at this board right here, this is a very, very, very nice board. What do you think makes this board pretty nice? Grain. Grain looks pretty good. What is there not a lot of in it?
Knots.
Yeah, I don't see any. I see a little bit down here, but it's so close to the end we can cut that stuff off. Now, we want to start with a 16½ inch piece. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to lay this on my chop saw. I'm going to check my end for what? What's that? Not concerned about crown or cup right now. Not concerned too much if it's straight, but I think you were trying to say square. We're going to talk about that. What do I want to make sure is not in the end? Defects, staples, all right? And right there we have a staple. All right, we definitely don't want to ruin a $60 blade, right, over a ½ cent staple. Now, Nick had said we want to make sure the end's straight. He didn't want to say straight, he wanted to say what? Square. What does square mean? 90 degrees. So we're going to take this project right here. We're going to put it over here. I'm going to extend out my saw a little bit. We're going to make sure that we're tight to our back. We take our saw, and we're going to take about a saw blade off of this. Remember, when we cut this, it is important that we are flush and tight back here. So I'm pushing back. My fingertips are holding down on this. When I use this saw, I don't ever start the saw with it in the wood. I always start the saw up, cover on it. I start it, I go all the way down, all the way back, shut it off, then up. Why do I want to go slow with my cut? Okay, it might not burn the wood. What else is it going to make a nice? It's going to make a real nice cut?
Nice cut.
Yes, with no splinters. All right, so we're going to take our time. And it's a little bit more safe if we do it that way. Always visualize the cut in your head, walk through it in your mind, and then execute it. Think about everything. All right, safety glasses on. I'm tight. Everything looks good. No defects. Taking off the saw blade. I'm in great shape. Now we're going to execute the cut. We have a beautiful square edge. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our tape measure. What was that length going to be? 16 and a half. All right? I put an X on the piece that I want. I want that X piece. So if I want the piece right here, when I bring my piece over to the saw, I want to make sure that my saw blade is to the left of this line because I want the piece on the right. So I bring my saw blade down. I line it up. I can see that my saw blade is to this side of the line. I can now go ahead and execute this cut, just like this. I like to let the saw stop down there so it doesn't accidentally rip up a piece and get it out of our way. All right, we have another individual that's going to need a piece off of this, so we bring this over, mark it out at 16 and a half. Nick, you want to go ahead and cut this? Let's bring it down. All right, let's check the placement. All right, that looks good. What are we going to think about in our mind? Are we tight to the back? Yep, safety glasses on, holding it down, slow and steady. And we can tell he did a perfect job, because we can still see his line. So we wound up with a piece that's exactly 16 and a half inches. All right, so we've gotten both of our tabletop pieces here to glue up. And what we need to do now is we need to start truing up some of these edges. And in order to do this, we're going to joint one end, and then we're going to rip the other end on the table saw. So when we joint, I always tell the kids to joint the prettiest side. What do I mean by the prettiest side? No knots, the spot that's going to take the least amount to get it out. So what I would do is I take my project, I put it here, I'm tight, I have a little bit of a gap right here. I could probably do this in 2, maybe 3 passes through the planer. Put this one over here, kind of tight, then loose, then tight. I would say this side over here is our prettiest side. When we run this through the joiner, it's important to remember that we always want to keep our hands out of this area. Razor sharp knives. Always leave the guard in place. Always keep your hands above this fence. You do not want to run your hands down through here. You do want to keep your board tight to the fence and tight down. You do want to focus most of your effort on pushing right here and focus your hold down pressure from the knife back. What you don't want to do is run into a spot where you really start pushing a lot on this end. Sometimes you can get a little bit of a teeter totter. This particular joiner is a nice joiner. However, it's went through thousands and thousands of kids. Kids have sat on it. It's a little bit tricky to get fine-tuned. So when we use this machine right here, we're going to focus all of our effort on this table right here. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. This particular machine, we have the dust vacuum hooked up to it. I opened up the gate right here. Our start button is down here. Down on the table and flush back here. So if we take a look at our board right here, we have a nice trued edge. There's no snipe in it. I can sight down it. It is very nice. I can take it, put it on my table right here. It is perfectly flush the entire way. This is a beautiful looking piece. Now, are we going to joint this side over here? Or not? Why not? Because we're going to use a table saw, right? We use this edge here on our fence on the table saw to rip this side good. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to joint this one over here. Would you like to try it? Go ahead and press the start button. Almost. We have one little spot right here that didn't quite get it. So we're going to run that one through once more. Remember, this thing's kind of wobbling all around. So when I hold this hand here is holding it against that fence. Take a look. We're going to hit the stop button. We have a beautiful trued up side right here. We can take it, put it right here. Beautiful. That way when we do our glue up later on, look at that. Fits together absolutely beautiful. We could never glue something up like this. Table saws. All right, so we got done joining our tabletops over at the joiner over there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to rip down one side of each one of these boards over here on our table saw. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our tape measure and we're going to measure what it is from here to here. This particular board, we have a little bit over 6 1/4. Almost all the way. So if we rip this board down to 6 1/4, we would wind up with another trued edge. So we're going to show you how to do that in 1 second. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to set my table saw for 6 1/4. I'm going to double check my measurement. I'm at 6 1/4. I'm going to make sure that my saw blade is 1/4 of an inch above our block of wood. Jointed edge goes against the fence. When I hold this, I take these 3 fingers and I push it against the fence. My thumb pushes it against the fence. My index finger holds it down. This particular board, there's enough clearance for me to run my hand down through. Otherwise, I would use a push stick. When I am pushing this through, I'm focusing my force in this direction so that it resists the urge to walk away from the fence. Our guard is down. We start our saw. If you notice, it stays tight along that fence the entire way. Up and out. Set it down. And our piece came out at 6 1/4 inches. We're going to repeat that process for all of these here. They may all be different sizes. For example, this one here is a little bit under 5 1/2, so we're probably going to have to rip this one at like 5 3/8. This piece over here is a little bit over 5 1/2, so we could probably rip this one here down to 5 1/2 inches. All 3 of these added up to one another, we want to equal over 16 inches. All right, so what was the ripping width on this one here? 5 3/8, sorry.
I don't know.
Hold the red button.
There you go.
Hand placement. gotten our 3 pieces for this particular glue up here jointed and ripped down. Now is the point where we're going to figure out what we want our tabletop to look like. So Jared on this project here said he really liked this funky looking design right here, and I agree, it's pretty sharp looking. This one over here is pretty plain looking piece of poplar, and this one over here we got both a little bit of heartwood and some sapwood on this one here, so this is a pretty nice looking project. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to figure out where you want these. You have different choices. We could be like this, we could be like this, we could be like this. That kind of looks pretty cool. Dark, light, back to dark.
A nice flip.
We could flip this over.
I'm saying that.
Okay, let's take a look at this one here. Do you like this side better?
Yeah.
And if we take a look at this one here, we have this, or, ooh,
Nah.
so you like it like this?
Yeah.
Now, if I was to go ahead and not be able to get to this glue up today, what I would do is I would just make a little mark like this, and some arrows.
Is that erase brown?
This will stand up, yes. And I'd probably put some arrows like that, and then over here, I'll do the same thing so that if I come back tomorrow and I want to do my glue up, everything's good and ready to go. So we've already got the glue up set ready here. We've gotten both of our clamps sitting on our table. We have the handles overhanging the side so it's a little bit easier for us to crank. And we have these opened up to where this part right here meets this part up here on both of them. So they're both in the same position. That's pretty important for when we go ahead and start putting this together. I'm going to take this, put it right here. Take this, put it right here, take this, and put it right here. I'm going to use a scrap piece of wood so that I do not mar up my edges. Another piece of scrap wood over here. I'm going to go ahead and bring this about a 1/4 of an inch away. Same on this over here. And we may or may not need a plastic or rubber or wooden mallet to get this good. I'm feeling pretty confident that we can probably get it right now. Now, for our choices of wood glue, can you grab me that one, please?
Sir.
We have 2 different choices we could use on this. This one here is just the original Titebond. This is our most common one that we use. This one gives you about a 7 to 10 minute open up an open time for gluing up, so it gives us a little bit of time to maneuver stuff if we don't quite get it. This would be my recommendation. Titebond 2, this only gives us about 2 or 3 minutes, so it's very fast tack and very quick to dry. This is not going to leave us as much time to get our glue up done, but I'm feeling pretty positive about getting this thing good. So let's come on over here, Jared. What we're going to do is we're going to stand this one here up. And we're going to stand this one here up, and we're going to put our glue right down the seam here. And we'll give it a little wavelength wiggle. And if we want to get fancy, just take your finger, put it right over that, just let it glide right on down. Take this here, bring it right back down. This one here, right back down.
Even, bro.
We're going to try to keep these as close as possible to good to one another. Now, are these over 16 inches?
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, they were 16 and a half, I think, when we cut them. So we're going to have plenty of time to cut this down later. We'll be able to true up every side, which is why we did that.
Oh, we can sand it down like so.
Well, we're not going to sand the sides down. We'll sand the tabletop down for sure. So we're going to start right here, and we're going to tighten this up a little bit. We can see the glue starting to come out a smidge here. And this one here is now good. See how I kind of pinched it to get it good? We're going to tighten that there up. The next one I put on is going to be my top clamp right here. And what we're going to do right here is make sure that we're good at our glue up joint right here. So this one's down and this one's up a little bit. So I'm just going to tighten that up a smidgen. And this one over here, same thing. Wants to come up just a smidgen on me. So I'm good. I'm good. Snug this one up a little bit. And then finally down here, hold that up, snug this up a smidgen. And same with this here, so I'm good. I'm good. I can can now go ahead and tighten, tighten, tighten. I'm going to go half turn at a time. I'm getting pretty darn snug right here. This will be our last tighten right here. The reason why we put this top clamp on rather than being underneath is this will resist it from bowing one of these two ways, either cupping up or cupping down. This is a nice glue up. All that we would write on this here is our initials, period 4. We'll let this thing set. The next time we come in, we can take the clamps off, scrape it down, start sanding it up.